Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Welcome to Straight Up Startups. Today is Tuesday, September 6th, 2016. Like always, I'm joined with my friend Nick Hughes. Nick, how you doing?
Doing good, Connor. I'm fresh off a nice weekend off, so ready to get back into it.
Nice. How'd you spend the long weekend?
I was lakeside up in northern Idaho, just hanging
Ooh.
out, getting a breather on things. I literally did, there was probably 2 days where I didn't touch my phone.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Are you big on kind of taking that disconnect and separating your phone
Oh
from
yeah,
what you're doing?
oh yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's actually something we have on tap here just to give you guys a little bit of preview. We're going to be talking today about company culture, about kind of some of the best items that are out here summer 2016, dealing with tech, different things on investment, and some tips from Tony Robbins, having a simplified work day, taking some time off, and getting some exercise. So let's jump right into it with topic one. So this article comes from Medium. It's actually posted by Product Hunt, which I know both of us are big, huge fans of. And it was an article about what they did is they pulled from a bunch of their Ask Me Anything segments, and it was about building culture from day one. And so, Nick, give us was there one piece that you liked from this article, or just something in general that you have to add that you find important for building your team culture? And do you think it's important? And when should you start thinking about building your team culture?
Yeah, a lot of the responses on this article, which by the way is great. Please check it out if you haven't. A lot of the responses actually touched on the fact that culture happens. Like, it happens literally from day one. If it's two founders in an office, or if it's one founder, it's just your personality. But anytime you bring on more people, as early as possible, a culture happens. And I think the point here is building it intentionally. And there's a number of them, such as Buffer, that were interviewed on there, that they're very known for transparency. So whether it's transparency or equality, or just like Buffer does, basically, like, they combine those, and they basically do transparency of salaries, and they post everyone's literally their annual salary, and they make sure that male, female, it doesn't even matter, like, you're equal to basically your position and your experience. And so I think those jumped out at me. But I think in the end, if answering the question, culture starts from day one. And what I liked about this article was really just, if you sit back, culture can be hard sometimes for founders to figure out. So if you just sit back and think about your personality, what you value, and it could be 2, 3, 4 things. Just write them down, and that's the start of your culture. It will grow into something more, but just identifying 3 or 4 things, here's what we're about, is huge. And what's crazy is not a lot of companies do this intentionally. If you do it, you're probably going to see at least a benefit of understanding who the right people to hire and who the right people to probably not. What have you experienced in this area with the companies that you've worked with?
Well, for referencing the article first, I thought what the CEO of Zappos, his name obviously is
Tony. Tony Shea.
Tony Shea.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about it. I believe I might be pronouncing it wrong, but holacracy. And just digging in a little bit to that, it was very interesting to see about how, well, first, he wished he implemented it way earlier. And one of the key factors I thought was a really interesting idea was not about hiring people for their like position, right, or their skill set, kind of about the role that needs to be filled within the company. So right, if you need content marketing done, it's like, oh, we're not just going to go hire like a content marketing person. Like, we're going to make sure we find the person who fits the needs and says, we need, this type of content, right? We need a YouTube person, and kind of fit that role specifically. And then it's always evolving. I thought that was very interesting. I'm going to dive a lot more deeply into that. I'm sure that's something that we could talk about further. Also, and something that I'm more experienced in is about building your culture around hiring. I think is one of the key parts. I know every single person who starts for a startup and they have some growth and they get to hire, they go through like a very long, arduous struggle of hiring people and kind of what's the process. And usually there's a lot of high turnover in the startup world because you're just trying to find that right fit. And I have one friend who they've actually created a manifesto of their company culture. And that is very important because what that will do is that will give you a foundation for when you're doing your interviews and when you're hiring, and it'll help you kind of create some initial questions to get some momentum about what are some of the key factors in these people's decision making. So, is it loyalty to the customer? How do they feel about interacting with customers, and where the product fits, and what is their vision for the product specifically? I think defining those concepts really early on in your company will significantly improve your hiring process and make sure you find the right person earlier rather than later, because it's really important to find that you can't teach those things. You really want to make sure that you find the person that's going to fit in well, because so many tasks that need to be done day to day can be learned and can be taught. And so finding the person that fits in, that's going to have a good working dynamic with your team and be passionate about the company is very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, when they did a manifesto, was that like an employee handbook, or was that published online? Like what sort of?
I don't think they've published it. They're only at 6 people right now. They've raised some money and they're kind of still in private mode. But I know that's something that the 2 co-founders wrote up very early on, and they give it to all their employees. And that's how they base all their interviews, is they review this manifesto, and that's how they created a lot of their initial interview questions.
Interesting. All right, that's great. But hey, let's move on to the next topic we have here is. This was I believe it was Product Hunt as well. It was Best Tools of Summer 2016. And what's crazy is we're actually saying that already, like it's over, and it does feel like it's over, man. Came back and Seattle's struggling today. But so what jumped out at you on that list, or others that were the best tools of 2016 summer?
Yeah, so a couple of them. First one that I really liked was pricing pages. And what they do is just a curated directory of what all these different companies are doing and how they display their pricing. And it's really interesting to watch at them because it almost looks like everything's starting to become very, very similar. Kind of like with this tile. And I think that comes because everything needs to be mobile friendly. So you are very limited, and everything's just like this modern design now. But that actually was great for me to look at. As I've been creating different things and saying, how do I want to roll this out to my customers? It really gave me a little bit more direction on how should I create this? What are the most successful businesses doing so far? I thought that was great just because it helped. Another one, In Demand. I haven't played with it, and this is actually just how I discovered it, but it's like a on-demand creation tool for creating e-commerce page for yourself. No coding needed. It's just a plug and chug platform. It's something I'm definitely going to play around with here a little bit more. There was one more that I had listed on here. I got to scroll back up. Snappa. Snappa has been trending a ton, and if you're a designer, I think you'll really like it. It just makes the designing process a little faster. They just have a ton of stock photography, fonts, shapes, and it just makes it really easy to put different graphics. If you're a social media marketing person and you're on your team and you're scouring the internet for pictures all the time, you're trying to make your own memes, it's a great place just to go and get some different content than just doing the typical searches. Something that was not on here that I have been very big about is a company called Bonsai. And if you're a contractor, what they do is they automate the contracting process for you. So if you get an agreement with a startup, say to do web development or do SEO or content marketing, whatever it is, if you're going to be on contract, what they do is they kind of white label the whole contract for you. You got to fill in the basic amounts of information, send it over. They do an e-signature. It's just very quick, very easy to take it care of. What they also do in one of their newest products is managing the payments. So what they'll do is they'll actually ask for the payment up front from the company, and they'll put it in escrow. And once the company says that you've delivered, they transfer it over to you. I know in contracting, it's a big gray area about getting paid sometimes. And a lot of times startups are on this week by week basis. And so you can get burned really easily. So it's a really good platform for contractors to just give it to their employer, say, this is how it works. You put it in here. If I don't deliver, then, it's no loss to you. You get the money back. If I do, you push okay, and it transfers to me. It handles a lot of those pain points.
Yeah, it sounds like a really this highly needed tool in this industry that is more and more and more contractors, whether they're tech or non-tech technical, are just probably frustrated to get paid and how all that works. But real quickly, just a few of them that jumped out at me. One that was not on the site or this blog post that I will mention is Mighty Bell, just because we're using it for Founders Live, and Mighty Bell is essentially a platform to create your own network. If you're on Founders Live right now, you touching it, feeling it, and experiencing that. So I think they do a great service, and we love them here. And one that was on, there wasn't, of all that list, there wasn't one that was like, yeah, that's the one that I totally love. But I think the Twitter Live was listed on there, and I think that's interesting because the size of that platform and releasing live experiences and like streaming live events could be very, very big. So that is one that I think in 6 months, a year, we might be talking about it quite a bit more. And then the last one, I'll do a little throwback, is I thought the mini Nintendo was awesome. Like, and people that haven't read the article, it's literally like an original Nintendo NES, the original one, and it was about the palm of the hand. So it was like a mini, and they had, clearly there was space for cartridges and controller plugins, and it looked so cool. So I was like, okay. So I don't know if they're manufacturing the mini games for that or whatever, but like it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a cool little nostalgia thing, especially if it's like a desk ornament. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, that's way sweet. And relating to Twitter Live, I also agree. I think this is probably their biggest opportunity they've come to in the last couple of years, and they've just struck an unbelievable amount of big partnership deals. Twitter, their connection with sports has just been unbelievable. It really goes hand in hand with kind of having the live feedback, the live time interaction. I think that's a huge opportunity for them to keep going at least and stay relevant as they're competing with everyone else so far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I know the last thing that was put on there, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, was the Prisma app. I feel like it's gone down a little bit, but I still use it. I think it creates unbelievable photos and puts some good filters in there.
Nice.
But next article is a TechCrunch article that was posted late last night, actually, by Phil Nadell, and it was 11 reasons we didn't invest in your company. And so I actually didn't do too much in research on him, what he's invested in, but he's part of Barbara Cochran Venture Partners, right? So he works with famous Shark Tank investor Barbara Cochran. So he's probably seen a ton of deals. He knows what he's talking about. But he talks about the process a little bit and more just, what gets you X really quickly. And the due diligence, I kind of want to run you through what he says here. It says the process includes a thorough review of your slide deck, financial statements and projections, discussions with the founders, customers, and other investors, them doing kind of the research on the product, and a review of any third-party information relevant to the company or the industry. And then after kind of that first criteria, they go through and all the different pieces. And so, Nick, my question to you, of these 11 reasons, what maybe you think is the most common or the most important that founders, like, I like to think of this as a checklist, like, do we accomplish these goals up front? What do you find that is important?
I'm going to answer the common first, just to kind of take this a different direction. I read the article, and starting out, I was like, who's this guy writing a guest post on TechCrunch? But then I felt like it was quality in terms of, when I got done, I was like, okay, those are 8 to 10, 11 things that most investors are going to look at. So I think it was very accurate. And I think the most common reason why no is said is it's too early. And so what that means is, if you look at a number of those points, such as, I think a big one was, they really don't take very seriously any companies that don't have any sales. Like, if you haven't made your first sale, you then don't know who your ideal customer is. You don't know what the channels that are effective in onboarding new customers, and what's the ROI on that. And like, so basically you can dumb it down into it's too early. And I think that's the most common reason, like early stage, very like pre-seed companies going and pitching VCs. They're just going to say, hey, this is great, let's stay in touch. That's all, right? And so I think that is a general answer, but I think the more specific one is you got to do the math on, so, they could be receiving hundreds of slide decks or pitches a month. Yeah. They want to meet with probably 10 companies, and they want to make one investment. So that's orders of magnitude different, right? So you as the startup in the company have to really understand what puts you ahead of everyone else. And that's, in the end, that's traction. It's basically growth, literally growth that you can't even stay up to speed with. Everything else will take care of itself. And I think that is, in the end, what you will see in that. What was your take on that article?
Yeah, and I think it's very similar, but just knowing your information, right? I think a lot of people, it's kind of mind-blowing to me that you can be a founder, started this company, and you don't know all the details inside and out. I mean, from financials to marketing to product, like you need to know everything. It's your company. And I know when we watch Shark Tank, that happens all the time. But the big one that I thought was really interesting when he talked about understanding your competition, and something that still blows my mind is that people do still say we have no competitors. Like, that's just crazy. You haven't done your research. Yeah. And we talk about this a lot, but it's like you just got to do your research. And I think you just need to think about it differently, and have an answer for when they ask that, to show that you've done your research and you know what's going on. And so the way that he phrased it, I really liked it, because it just gives a different perspective. He said, how's your target market currently solving the problem that you want to be addressed? And then that's where you'll find your actual answers. I think that's a really good way to kind of reverse engineer the problem, and just say, well, we know what the problem is and there's no one working on it. Well, it's like, if there's a problem there, then people are doing something to solve it. How are they solving it? And there's your answer. I thought that was a really great piece of advice, just for people to think about and kind of perceive their problem in a different way.
Yeah. Next topic is interesting, and look, I'm not the biggest Tony Robbins fan. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that don't get me started on it, but he does come across with some incredible insights. And side note, have you listened to the Tim Ferriss?
Of course.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good podcast, probably 2 hours long or hour and a half long, and great interview. So I definitely do think he comes with a lot of great stuff, but it's, it's a little hee-hee for me a little bit. But the 12 lessons, the one that stood out to me, so this is an article that was on Entrepreneur.com, and basically this guy got a chance to spend some time with Tony, and he boiled it down to 10 or 12 lessons that he received from him. And the one that struck out to me, I think, was actually remembering and understanding our 6 human needs. And what's crazy about that is, so he talks about the 6 human needs are, we all need to feel a sense of certainty, uncertainty, significance, and love, as well as experience growth and feel like we're contributing. So, if you want to go and do your own research on the 6 human needs, I think what he's pointing out at is, as an entrepreneur, whatever you're building needs to somehow tap into the human basic needs and desires, and that's where people will want to like, for instance, Facebook or Instagram taps into basically our vanity, right? It allows people to be vain and push things out about them, or push out, photos or little quips about what they're doing. And essentially that's why Facebook has become so big. And also maybe love, and the fact that we want to put around us the people that we care about. And so I think in the end, any major product taps into one of those basic human needs.
Yep.
So that's the big one that jumped out at me.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna disagree with you on the Tony Robbins front. If you like that podcast, you have to watch his new movie on Netflix. I am not your guru. It will change your entire opinion of him. I
Okay.
promise.
Okay, I'll take you up on that.
I think you'll read all this very differently after you watch the movie. You'll just get a deeper insight. What that documentary is about is he has once a year he does the 6-day program in the U.S. It costs thousands of dollars. I think it's like $5,000 to $6,000 to go, and it's a 6-day like all intensive event of just finding out like what motivates you, what drives you, who you are, how you can be better. And it's absolutely incredible. I cried, I laughed, I was happy at the end. It really impacted me a ton. And if you can't watch that movie and the next day wake up and be ready to go, get your job done, then I don't know what will. But I really love the last point. I think this relates a lot to Tony's message. Is exercise altruism, right? Thinking above and beyond yourself and how you can help others. That's something that as time gone on, especially with the social media and everything is so much about like the selfie and me and what I'm doing and projecting that to the world. Most people are actually going to feel a lot more fulfilled when they help others, and they feel that kind of success in achieving whether it's a group goal or making others more successful. And that's something that really motivates Tony and a lot of people. And so thinking about that, about can the problem that you're solving, make people happier, solve a big problem in their life, make it less stressful, and really having that focus about, how's this going to make me famous as a giant founder, opposed to how's this going to benefit the rest of the world and humanity, is a really important factor just to remember this is the goal. It's about other people. I think that's really important to be true to yourself, but also thinking about other people and how it's going to help.
Totally agree, man. I love it. I absolutely love that. But hey, we're going to move on to the next topic is about exercise and how do you incorporate exercise into, especially as a founder or even just, someone that is so busy, why is exercise important and how do we incorporate it into our busy lives?
Yeah. So, well, I love that he quoted some of these high endurance athletes, which are, do some crazy thing. Alex Honnold, most famous free soloist out there. That guy's climbed the crazy. He's climbed every mountain, 70 in a day. I think he did like 6 peaks in 24 hours, 70, which is just insane. Anything that guy says about becoming better, I really listen to. And what he says is the only way to deal with pain is practice and getting used to it through the training. And I think that's really important. And a lot of this article references that we don't usually push ourselves to the limits anymore. Yes, we're stressed at work and we work really hard. That's true, but only can you push yourself like when you're in physical training, right? Where you're about to drop, pass out. That physical endurance really puts you in a mental state that makes everything a lot less scary and a lot less stressful because you've put yourself through this rigorous physical routine that anything mental, you'll be able to handle it. And I just thought that was great. I definitely need to get more exercise. I walk easily 10,000 steps a day, which is around 5 miles for my step. But I know it's not enough. That's something that I need to get in a better habit of working out more. But I know you're real big on this. What do you think, Nick?
Oh yeah. So, what's interesting is the next topic as well. We'll tap into this, but this article that we're referencing is a Medium post by Brad Stolberg, and he does a really good job of illustrating how exercise is not just, I need to go like burn calories to like be in shape. It absolutely is now proven scientifically that it is required if you want optimal mental and physical performance. And so he dives into how a lot of the benefits of exercise is mind. Like when you are in the middle of exercise, your mind is actually working in ways that can't be experienced when you're just sitting at a desk. And so I think exercise is both physically great in terms of achieving optimal health and keeping you healthy and you're not struggling with any health issue, But man, it is incredible the response that you have clarity wise mentally, the fact that you somehow just grind on some, as you're like going out for a 4 or 5 mile run, all of a sudden you feel a little more clear on some of the issues that you've been grinding on. Maybe it's in your life, professional life or whatever. So it's just stepping away and allowing yourself to exert energy, and what it does to you, like that exertion of energy is both mentally and physically great. And I think that is part of it. So just real quick in terms of how to incorporate, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but you just got to get it in, and it doesn't have to be hours long. It's 20 minutes, half an hour every day or every other day will make a huge difference. And so I personally put it in the morning because it's harder to squeeze things in if you have meetings and half hours or whatever you have at night. And some people, they have to deal with children, they have to deal with other things. So whatever it is, finding that 20 to 30 minutes a day, could be lunch, could be right when you get up, could be before breakfast, could be before dinner, after dinner, whatever it is. You just get it in, and high intensity is way better than low intensity. And so you can figure out how to challenge yourself. But again, we're talking about 20 minutes. It's not 2 hours of high intensity like these crazy endurance athletes are doing, Then you can think about, doing bodyweight strength, cardiovascular, yoga, those are the other aspects. Now you get into details of what you do, but I think it just creating a consistent routine is absolutely it's huge. It's huge.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Weird. But the article reminded me of Fight Club when Brad Pitt grabs Edward Norton's hand and he puts the solution on his hand and starts burning him. And Edward Norton tries to get in his Zen state, and he slaps him in the face, and he goes you need to embrace the pain and live in the moment and really kind of learn to deal with this, because it'll never be tougher than it is right now. And if you can deal with the pain that you're feeling in this instant, when you get into a really tough situation, you'll remember that and remember kind of how to just deal with it and grind through it. I think is really great. And so you were talking about routine, Nick, and you actually work out in the morning. And so our next article actually comes from Benjamin P. Hardy, and he talked about how the morning routine will save you 20 plus hours a week. And he talked about the average work week, right? We all know about the 40-hour work week and what that entails, but he says that most people really only work 3 to 6 hours tops per day. And that's just because we have so many distractions in our life now between the news and social media and questions and socializing with all your coworkers. And he talks about the myth of the 8-hour workday. And so, Nick, kind of transitioning with what you were saying, and what did you think about his morning routine? Because I think he would actually say to push your workout not so much directly first thing in the morning, put it a little later, because the first 3 hours of your workday is actually when you're going to be most productive.
Yeah, he made a lot of great points, and I do think if you want to get into detail, it depends on a specific person and what they require, how they digest food. So I think in the end, his point was there's a few points of your most optimal mental processing and essentially just getting crap done. You're best in the morning. What that means is right after sleep, there's a window of time that you can focus, you can accomplish, and you can get shit done. And it's only a 3 to 4 hour period. And then after that, the day kind of builds on itself, and little stresses just kind of build on itself, so you're not as effective. So his point was push workouts off, go get exercise in the evening when you don't need to give mental energy to that. Sure, if that's what you want to do. For me, though, it just works, and it's not like I'm spending 2 hours. I get a half an hour in pretty much every day, and then I'm still, but I agree with him on the morning is so important. So the big things in this article that I took is, one, your morning routine should be you should really work on optimizing it, determining what's important, getting it done, and then understanding the second thing is we shouldn't be, this is arguable, but why are we working 60 to 80 hours a week and 10 to 12 hours a day when we are optimized to perform in these small chunks of time? And so I've noticed that with my life, I'm juggling a lot of things. I'm spending a certain small chunks of time on specific tasks, and in the end, you have top 3 to 4 things to get done that day. You get them done, and it might take 2 hours, it might take 4 hours, but it ain't going to take 10 to 12 hours to get done the top 3 to 4 things to be effective. So I think that's what I take from this article. Is it's great is understand where you're good and where you are optimal in the time of day, get that shit done, and then understand where you can structure your day and relax. And it's just being, it's not being OCD about it, but it's just it's optimizing, being effective. And I think he's got a point.
Yeah, I really think that I appreciate that we've been talking about routine more the last couple of weeks, and I think that shows how important we feel that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more that I've been working, especially this last year, I've realized it's a foundation pillar of your life, and how you organize that and how you get yourself done. And if you have the routine, you just don't go through the same ups or extreme ups and downs that you might normally do, because you just have things that you can rely on, and it limits your decision process. And I know he talks about that, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago about how like Zuckerberg only wears a black t-shirt, right? Just the fact that he limits all the decision making first thing in the morning really makes it so he can focus on the real decisions that matter, which is really interesting. The other part I want to highlight in this article was he talks about listening to some type of brain music or songs on repeat. And this has kind of been a really big thing lately that people have been talking about, especially if you're in engineering, just playing one song over and over again, and it really like puts you in this trance. And I think you just start hearing it over and over again. It kind of just gets that hypnotism going, where then you can just start diving in, and it's just a beat, right? Or it's a rhythm that your life starts working to. And I've really embraced that a lot. Spotify has a whole mood section based off just instrumentals. That's something that when I'm working has been a big thing. I haven't really listened to the song on repeat, but I try to get songs with no lyrics that are just instruments or natural elements that are playing, because it just starts getting a natural rhythm. I think your heartbeat starts following with the music, and it kind of just gets everything flowing all in one. So all your energy can be directed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you haven't been doing the repeat?
No, I'm more. I do like to mix it up, but my big thing is like no lyrics, because words really start to confuse me. Because I think I'm trying to think and get all the words through my brain. That when other words are coming in, I think it kind of like infiltrates my subconscious a little bit. So if I just have like a slower pace instrument, just a strumming guitar. I love piano, like jazz music. It just gets me like in this flow where it just becomes like the rhythm to my life and my workflow that I just really appreciate. And I think wearing headphones, I try to wear headphones almost all the time when I'm working, because what that is a signal to the people outside to not bother me. Whether I'm at Starbucks or at work, I really try to, or I'm on an airplane and I don't want to talk to people. Even if I'm not listening to anything, if I don't want to socialize, like I just put the headphones in, and I know it decreases my interaction with people a lot, which isn't always a good thing. But it is a tactic that I use sometimes when I want to separate and kind of have my own space.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it's kind of on the same topic a little bit. Molly Chen, she was the founder of. I'm just blanking. I don't have the article up, but she wrote a Birchbox. Yes, that's what it was, Birchbox, and she wrote an article really just touching on taking time off, and her angle here was she pretty much took the summer off, left the job that she had. Clearly, she could financially do that, and just needed to kind of take some time out a little bit. And I'm going to take the angle of, we're not talking about months taking off here, but I'm going to take, I just took off 4 days for Labor Day, and it felt great. And, what is your thoughts on taking a scheduled time off as opposed to just trying to do the whole burn the candle? This is the thing in startup world. You got to work all the time. And, what are your thoughts on scheduling this sort of appropriate time off?
Well, I think time off is absolutely necessary. Just we're not robots. We can't go all the time at 110%. It's just impossible, and it's gonna put you in a deep hole, I think, especially when you get to that time where you're burnt out. If you keep grinding like that, it just really makes things worse. But what's also important, and I think a lot of people, if they get to the next step that they take vacation, is that you need to do it wisely, right? You need to invest in the right moments and times, and do the things that are actually going to help you relax. Whether it's read a book, listen to music, sit on a lawn chair in the grass, meditate, turning off your cell phone, very important. I think those things, go a very long way to when you need to get back on your A time. You come and you can crush it, and you kind of have that focus. What I really do hate it, and what's really big in startups right now, is unlimited vacation. I think we should just totally get rid of that. I think it's the biggest bullshit startup thing that's ever been created, because it's not true. And that's what's unfair is you say unlimited vacation, but I just think that sets a really false expectation. I hear this all the time with companies like, oh, we have an unlimited vacation policy, but I've got so much work that I can't ever take the vacation. That's just a way to get people. I think in theory it's really great, but in practice, I don't think it gets practiced well enough. So I really like the companies that say, this is how many days you have off, you use it or you lose it. I think that's a really important thing, because that shows, with going back to company culture, that we value that you take this time off. You take it off, you don't work, you turn off your email, you put your away message on for the week or two, and you really take advantage of it. I really appreciate companies that take that approach, and that's my personal philosophy, because it just emphasizes, like, this is important, you need to do it, or if you're not going to do it, then that's fine with us, you can keep working, but you're not going to get it back.
Yeah. It's a huge, it's an important topic. It's one that I think gets thrown around or abused. And what I mean by this is we just work too much mostly. And I again, this comes down to personal opinion, personal situation. But if you need to spend some time disassociated with your company, your job, your whatever you're working on. Look, if you're a founder that is in any sort of pressure times, you're thinking about this during sleep. You wake up, you're thinking about it. You get in the shower, you think about it. You go on a run or you work out, you're thinking about it, or a walk. You're thinking about it all the time. And what I just did for 4 days, I was out at a lake house with some friends. I put my phone in my room. I literally didn't touch. I think every day I pulled up my email and actually just cleared out all the crap, just the stuff, so that I didn't open my phone with 150 to 200 emails. Yeah. But I did not work. I didn't do anything. I wasn't trying to read the articles or read the emails and try to respond to them. But I totally mentally checked out. And I needed that, and I think everyone needs to get away and then come back, and it just feels really good. And I think this structured time to take a break should be embraced. We should not feel bad if we're taking a small vacation. And I think that's the point, is it's become now so fantasized that, founders need to work 12, 15, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week until whatever. That I don't buy it, and that's not how I'm running my company. And I'm kind of. It's interesting that you said the unlimited. I'm definitely not going to blatantly set that standard, but I think encouraging people to take certain time off is healthy and important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of going back to routines a little bit. I know that Molly, when she was talking, that she for the first week she really struggled. Like, what am I supposed to do now? And being bored is really difficult. I think it could really help that you need to find some time every day while you're working to enjoy things that aren't work, to really separate yourself just for brief moments, whether it's reading a book or listening to music, going to sports, watching sports, playing sports, finding something that you can take 20 minutes to an hour every single day that separates yourself from the anxiety of work. That will really help you transition, because when you get in this time off, you can say, at least I can go read for 2 hours, and I know that will, kick me off.
I mean, it also comes back to the previous, the last article we were talking about, which is the working, you don't have to work 12 to 16 hours a day, and optimizing for 4 to 6 hours, depending on the time. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the midday or evening for you. But also, yeah, it's kind of like take time off throughout the year, but take time off a little bit in the day, right? And so we can slice this any way we want. Point is being mindful of that your body ebbs and flows, your work, your impact and focus on work ebbs and flows, and working around that health in a healthy way will actually do you a lot of good, and totally disregarding it and pushing the needle. And of course, sometimes you get to go hard, but for months and months and months, that's called burnout. It's not healthy.
So for the last topic today, we're talking about, Nick, one of your friends. I know that you had an online conversation with her. I love her name. It's Genevieve, right?
Yep.
Genevieve LaMarshall? LaMarshall, okay. And she's a serial entrepreneur. She co-founded Sadie. She does online instruction. She's a speaker and startup mentor and advisor, and has just great things to say. I know Founders Live right now has a brief clip with you and her talking about closing the sale. And so just wanted to get your thoughts, Nick, maybe talk about that conversation a little bit, and just how to go about closing a sale.
Yeah, so Genevieve and I had a great conversation. You'll find the clips on Founders Live. And so her course is called Roadmap to Revenue. And she's really just putting out there, here's what I learned going through my process of learning how to build sales into your company. And, she learned the typical way, which was like, hit the ground, scrape your face, okay, get up, all right, what do I do now? And she pieced this together and put a course out, Roadmap to Revenue. It's just rolling out this fall. And so we did a great conversation. We've been putting some short clips on Founders Live on the specifics of some of the questions around sales. And this one is really about closing a sale. And I think her points were very interesting, which was, you kind of split it up. First of all, knowing when the sale is going to close or not. And so she talks about there are some clear indicators when it's not right, it's not in the right situation, this customer is not ready, they are giving you clues, which is not returning your emails or your phone calls, or they're just not willing to sign. But really, it's, I think how to close a sale, when it's ready, because they are not pushing. There's no resistance. They're usually, look, and if it's the right customer, they need what you're selling anyway. So they're like, hey, what's the next step? Let's do this. They're actually probably ready to they're ready to get this thing going. And I think that's how you know when it's right. And then I think and this is something that probably, whether it needs to be said or not, I think you need to ask for it. Like you and I know this with some of the experiences, and especially in the the local community, and you're walking in, and look, if you're not going to ask for the sale, which basically means, hey, are you ready to move forward? Here's our next steps. You literally have to ask for the sale, because a lot of times, not or less experienced salespeople don't actually ask for the sale. They're nervous, or they're doing that. So I think first and foremost, you got to ask for the sale. You got to ask them, is there anything that would dissuade you from stepping forward? Is there anything in here that you don't see that you're okay with? When would be a day that you would like to get started? Whatever that case may be. And then you're putting documents in front of them as soon as possible. Those sort of things, right? So I mean, what have you experienced? What have you essentially put into place that actually helps you close sales?
Yeah. So, well, I really like what she had to say just about if you handle the process right, and you define the decision maker really well up front, that the sales really closes itself. Right, and you just get moving through the process, and it's like, what is the next steps? And so if you take the right steps, and really that's your research in the early conversations about finding out who do I need to say yes, how do I go about it, what's important to them, what is their problem, how am I solving that, then it'll kind of appear to you. But yes, you do need to take the step and actually put the offer out there. Something I've done as I've taught a few people about sales is I always talk about being assumptive in the sale, and building the rapport that you're in, right? You're in no matter what. And running with it that way, and being assumptive about here's the next steps because you're in. And what that does is it just creates this energy of like, yeah, like we're in this together.
Yeah.
And just being like, great, like let's go. Because people, a lot of times decision makers, they don't want to think about it. They just want to be like, what do I need? This is why I need it. Here's the budget. Let's go. Like, let's get it done as quickly as possible because I'm busy. And so by being assumptive of the sale, a lot of times it really puts them in the mind state of not having to make the decision and just like, yeah, we're going for it.
Yeah.
And we'll get that. And that's something that I talk about a lot with some of the people I've trained, because it just helps put this team dynamic, and it helps really move things forward from the get-go.
Yeah, I think that's it's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. To me, that's assumptive, and it's confidence, and it's like, hey, yeah, you're like, well, why would we not do the? And you can't be an asshole about it, but there is a point where if they do throw an objection at you, you're kind of like, I don't get it. You told me this, you want that. Here's what we're doing, and so just being assumptive and confident is going to definitely put you in a way better position to walk them through and get them closed, and whatever you want to call it, and keep moving forward, and they're now a customer. Yeah, hey, roadmap to revenue. Genevieve does a great job really laying out all the specifics of, it's like essentially what, we talked about why sales are important, which is cash flow. It's proof to investors. I mean, and in the conversation, I literally kind of had to step back and say, like, it's kind of ironic that we're talking about how to do sales when that's business. Yeah. It's like, but sometimes startups don't actually pay attention to this stuff. So figuring out what process you're going to go about through the sales environment in your company, how to go about prospecting, who is a good customer and a bad customer, how to close a sale, and all the good stuff. You're going to find that on Founders Live. You'll see those clips. There's the full conversation there if you dig deep enough, and it was great. So that's it.
Yeah, I just signed up for her audio training. So next week maybe I'll talk about. We can kind of review what that's all about, because awesome. It looks great, and it seems like she's doing some good content, and I'm sure she appreciates us talking about her a little bit more.
Of course. All right, another good one, Connor.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Hey,
great to see you as always. See you next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.